Come on, Facebook. Oops, I need that shot right there is the one I need. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, not only the man behind Morning Coffee with Craig, not only one of the guys behind the Rundown Now, upcoming movie star, Craig DeLuz. Craig, thanks for coming along today, man.
It's always a pleasure, sir.
We got a lot of stuff to get to today. As we get started here, first story that hit my radar today was off of Reason. They're talking about a Firearms Policy Coalition lawsuit where the Fifth Circuit is looking into the ATF, and let's face it, this wasn't a law. This was an ATF rule that outlawed bump stocks. And from this article in Reason, it looks like that may be going away. Well, what are your thoughts, man?
Oh, most definitely. I'm sure it's going to be going away. Keep in mind that all new laws and whatnot are actually everything is supposed to be looked at under the guise of the new test. So first of all, there is that. Then I think when one looks at that, and then one looks at the Constitution and understands separation of powers, they'll realize that the Trump administration completely overstepped its bounds. There are those who argue that that Donald Trump knew that this would be the case and that it would wind up being thrown out, and therefore would make it so would I don't exactly subscribe to that. I just believe that he, like, unfortunately, some on the right saw bump stocks as a low-hanging fruit for the people to say that, hey, look, see, we can support gun control too. And in the end, I think that it's not going to. It's not only is it not going to withstand the Second Amendment, but it's also not going to withstand the separation of powers.
Yeah, the purview of that is with Congress, and ATF doesn't get to make law all by itself. I agree with the article of Reason that way. And let's face it, the way a bump, I have never owned a bump stock. I fired a few of them, fired a few ARs that had them. I've never owned one simply because I never got it. It's a great way to make a lot of money go downrange quickly. But they're not incredibly accurate. The thing is, it's still your trigger pull is one fire. You have to actively control the rifle to make it go bang bang bang. Mm-hmm. You cannot. The rifle will not go bang 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 on its own.
Well, exactly. Definitions matter. Words matter, especially when you start talking about someone is going to go to jail over something. Whether or not whether or not a constitutional right is going to be restricted, you need to be specific. And unfortunately, people are misusing individuals' ignorance of the technology in order to institute laws that they can't get passed through the legislative branch. And I'm sorry, it's time that the courts stood up and said something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to remind everybody, if you want to get your comment in, just comment on either live Facebook or live YouTube video, or you can tweet with the hashtag Bullet Podcast. That'll get to me as well. We'll get your comments up and get your comments on the air and discuss them. Next story I have up, Craig, is where'd my mouse go? I lost. There it is. When you have 4 screens, sometimes your mouse gets lost. And I lost it again. Jeez.
I feel like a rookie. I've only got 3 screens.
I've got 4 screens on one computer, 2 screens on another computer to run my broadcasts. So I'm quite literally surrounded. But next story I've got up here is Chicago, and a report came out. This is off NRA ILA, that they title it "When Seconds Count, Police Are Only Hours Away." And 2 paragraphs out of this article. Residents who called 911 for police help last year in Chicago were reportedly left waiting in more than half of high priority prior to level 1 and 2 calls. Prior to level 1 calls are the most urgent, include incidents where there is an imminent threat to life, bodily injury, or major property damage/loss, while priority 2 are those where timely police action has the potential to affect the outcome of the incident. Analysts using data obtained from Chicago Police Department found that in 2021, there were 406,829 incidents of high priority emergency service calls for which there were no police available to respond. That was 52% of the 788,000 high priority 911 service calls dispatched in 2021. That is unconscionable, and yet they do not. Mayor Lightfoot there doesn't want anybody in the state of Illinois to have firearms because her city is high crime. It just makes no sense to me, man.
Okay. So I have kind of a side story to this. So in California, they've made it illegal to commit anyone under the age of 18 or to advertisement or communicate with anyone under the age of 18 about anything about firearms. So when I went to follow the link to NRA ILA, a screen popped up that required me to do an age verification in order to tell them how old I was, in order to be able to view about police and police response. Wow. And needless to say, I put in a random birth date, and I'm now in. So just goes to show you how California law works. It doesn't work at all.
Okay. And by the way, we're going to be talking about
a sideline.
We're going to be talking about a story about that particular law later in the broadcast. But yeah, this is just, to me, this story just says, look, everything is broken in Chicago, but
it's not just Chicago. They did it in a study that they did in New Orleans. They found that it took almost 2.5 hours for people for law enforcement to respond to the average 911 call. That is, I mean, and that's one of the worst. That is, in fact, one of the worst things. And by the way, New Orleans happens to be the city with the number one murder rate per 100,000. So, of any city, any large city per 100,000, Baton Rouge is the absolute positive worst. Did I say New Orleans? I'm sorry, I meant Baton Rouge.
Okay.
The point that I'm trying to make here is that even if you have a great response time, even if it only takes, 5 minutes for law enforcement to respond to a call, that's still 5 minutes that you are there as an individual and you have no one there to protect you except yourself. I heard one person comment, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate, that if you want to understand the context of that, remember that in Sandy Hook, there was about 4 minutes between the first shot fired and the last shot fired, right? And think about it. If you have a police response time of 5 minutes, they're not going to show up till after a minute after the last shot is fired.
Yes, absolutely. And I've said this countless in public talks that I've given countless times. You want to know what 5 minutes is like? Find a watch that has a second hand on it. And no kidding, look at that thing for 5 minutes and think, somebody's pounding on my door. Somebody's broken through that door. They're now in my house. And
right.
5 minutes is an extremely long time.
Right. No, it is a very long time. And that's why it's vitally important that, just like with anything else, right? We have a first aid kit because we don't know exactly when the ambulance is going to show up. You have a sure at your home. At schools, we include also fire hoses because we don't know how long it's going to take the fire department to show up to put out a fire. We have sprinkler systems in buildings. Once again, why should you then not be prepared in the event that you need to defend yourself from someone who is attempting to take your life? Why should you then also not be prepared with a firearm and with the training to know how to use it efficiently and effectively in order to protect your life.
Yeah, I'd much rather go with the Indiana Mall theory of 15 seconds from first shot fired to incident over, or 30 seconds, I'm sorry, from first shot fired to incident
Right.
over, when there's an armed trained individual there, um, instead of
There
dozens
was
of lives
a
lost.
there was an analysis that I saw, like I want to say, like it had to have been like almost a decade ago, and I never saw it. Wasn't anyone who was a researcher, to be a researcher, but they had taken a look at mass or shootings and mass casualty events involving fire, like the early '90s till then. I think it was like 2003. It was 2003 to 2006, somewhere around there. But what they noted was, and all they did was they said, okay, we look at all of them. Let's look at the ones where the law enforcement were the first person with a firearm to respond, and when an individual citizen was present. And it would the difference in the 90s was huge. And I've never seen that analysis recreated. And I keep talking to people I know who are researchers and asking them, go and do that. Take a look at that and see if that bears out. But it may only make sense because, like I said, if it's an armed person that's there, they're already there. They don't have to worry about the travel time to arrive at to get word, respond, and then time to get to the event. They're already there. So how much more important is it that we make sure that we increase the likelihood that there is an armed individual, an armed citizen, an armed good guy already present with a firearm when the bad guy decides to start acting bad.
Yes, and let's be clear on this. The police. I love the police. I'm not anti-police at all.
Right.
But the policeman may be a mile away, in which he's got to go in a car, code 3, through traffic, hope he doesn't get into a traffic accident while doing about a $120 in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, and get into that area, get out his vehicle, get to where a shooting at the mall. Okay, which store in the mall? A shooting at a school. Okay, which schoolroom do I go to? Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that police officer to get there, and they cannot be everywhere. So,
well, exactly. It's not. You're 100% right. It's not a reflection of law enforcement. It's a reflection of reality and sheer physics and numbers. There's not enough law enforcement officers to be all places at all.
there's soon to be enough IR agents to be all places at all times, though. So there is that.
Soon to be, definitely. IRS is definitely, well, and we know that they'll be well armed with 5 million rounds of ammunition.
Oh, all right. I want to Mike. I want to get Michael's comment in here. It's a little bit off what topic of what we're talking about, but it's still a good comment, and I'm gonna have to read some of it because it cuts off in the. I'm gonna read all of it, but it cuts off in what goes on screen. The Dems always lie in order to pass bills or pass bans. Quote Speaker Pelosi, "Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding and for his great leadership. Mr. Speaker, each year more children die from gun violence than any other cause. Cancer, auto accidents, any other cause. Our nation has watched unspeakable horror as assault weapons have been used in massacre after massacre in communities across the country." And Michael, you're right. Those are all lies. Straight up lies. You can't even say those are tweaks of numbers. They're not.
Well, the number on shootings and children, shooting firearms and deaths, that has had 1 year. And by the way, we're talking about children. They include in that adults 18 and 19 years old. So you're right. No, and by the way, most of them are 16 through 19 or through 20, and most of it is gang or drug related. So yeah, so that's not. You're right. 100% right. You're right in that is not true. When they talk about, quote unquote assault weapons and mass shootings, have they been involved in some mass casualty events involving firearms? Yes, but once again, way more common are handguns. They are the weapon of choice or the firearm of choice for individuals involved in mass shooting. And by the way, in many cases, they also have more than one fire, which by the way also undoes the whole high capacity magazine thing or bullet button thing, because in essence we're requiring fixed magazine thing where they want to have fixed magazines, because in most cases they do what we call a New York reload, which is just pull out another firearm. Right. So I mean, time and time again, they lie. They go the whole conversation about ghost guns. They keep saying that they're involved in more and more crimes. When you dig into the research, you find out that the biggest crime that they're involved in is possession of them, either because they are against the law, or it's against the law to have an unserialized firearm, or it's individuals who aren't in possession of a firearm have the unserialized firearm, but they're not being used in crimes. And oh, by the way, we're also finding that in many places, what they're calling a ghost gun, or which they're implying is a home manufactured or a 3D printed gun, actually turned out to be firearms where the serial number was actually just removed.
Yes. And that's especially
lies, and more lies.
Especially so in Los Angeles. I do know that Los Angeles, if the gun has been dropped and there's a scratch somewhere on the any serial number that's on the fire, if there's a scratch there, they're going to call that a ghost gun.
Well, because they're trying to ramp up their numbers, and by saying that there's more in circulation, then there's more reason for them to try and ban them.
Yeah. I want the next story that came across my feed. This is a Tom Knighton story, and I'm gonna read right off the letter that's in this article. Gun stores are getting from the ATF. This is from ATF, a letter being sent to gun stores. On or around 9/26/22, FFLs will be prompted to provide the addresses of the buyer on all denied or delayed transactions. And then skipping down, for FFLs who initiate a check by contacting NICS contracted call centers, the address will be required if the customer receives a delay or denied status. The information will be required before the status is provided by the NCCC. And for FFLs that initiate check through NCIS e-check, the address will be required if the customer receives a delay or denied response. The response will not be retrievable until the information is provided. And that's if you get a 5-minute delay because the system is busy, guess what? All your information now goes to the ATF.
There's got to be a question about this. I would love to know under what guidelines they believe that this is appropriate.
This is not, and trust me, the number of delays that are going to happen after September 26th are going to go through the roof. Everybody's going to get delayed for at least 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
Oh yeah. It sounds like a massive way in which for them to gather data and information on gun buyers.
Yeah, it's
that's basically what it sounds like to me.
It's unconscionable, and I want it. It's late because he actually has commented that he has to catch the rest of the show on rerun. But DJ Playlice earlier put this comment in. I want to put it up now. Simply because I want everybody to be getting a hold of the U.S. Capitol switchboard 202-224-3121. I want, especially if you have a pro-gun senator, I want you to request their help reining in the ATF. This is this is another example of many that we've had. The ATF doesn't care that there's a law banning it. They're going to build a registry anyway.
Right. Well, no, you hit the nail on the head. They don't care because the White House doesn't care. But they also, though, need to know that, once again, that's why the calling you a pro-gun senator. So that means if you're in the state of California, don't know what to tell you. But yeah, call your pro-gun senator and let them know that this is not right. And if you want to call another senator and tell them know that you're going to be donating to a group that's going to be suing the ATF over this.
There you go.
Let them know that.
Absolutely. And I want to skip around a little bit. No, I'm going to actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go right to the next story. And the Biden Department of Justice says medical marijuana patients are too dangerous to trust in motion to dismiss lawsuit on gun rights. Nikki Fried, the former attorney general in Georgia, in Florida, filed a lawsuit saying that this is that medical marijuana people ought to be able to buy firearms. And the Biden DOJ just answered saying, look, if you're on medical marijuana, you're a dangerous person. You shouldn't have a firearm. And yeah, I'm sorry, but if you drink vodka tonics all day, Speaker Pelosi, maybe you shouldn't have a firearm.
The very least, her husband shouldn't have a firearm.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, I don't have an issue with medical marijuana as a whole. My issue in this particular case is, look, you got to try and address issue. You can't say on one, well, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and we ought to legalize it and this, that, and the other. Then at the same time saying that individuals who are utilizing it are a danger to themselves or others and should not be allowed to own a firearm. It's one or the other. And you as a party need to make up your mind which one it is. If you're going to argue that it should and that it's then there's absolutely positively no reason why an individual should not be able to possess it, to utilize it, still be able to keep their rights.
Wow. I'm going to get another comment from Michael, and this is kind of related to what we're talking about. Let me get this up, and then I got to highlight this so I can read the whole thing. New York City police officers could soon clock out and light up, according to a memo issued Wednesday by New York City Law Department, a source told the Staten Island Advance SILive.com. In a memo, the New York City Law Department, which oversees all city agencies, directed the NYPD to seize all random scheduled and pre-employment drug testing for marijuana, according to a Daily News report.
Well, but that says, all that says is pre-employment. That means before you get hired. That doesn't necessarily say anything about on the job, right?
Random, scheduled, and pre-employment.
And. Well, there you go. I mean, now the question is, can you test? What happens if you are on the job and you get tested?
Well, and that's just it. What? With marijuana, you're going to test the same when you are. My understanding is, I have no medical knowledge to back this up. Just
right
knowledge from when I was an adventurous kid. Let's put it that way. But anyway, my understanding is from 30 years ago, you test the same whether you're stoned out of your mind or it's 2 days later. So
that's my I know very little about it, so about marijuana, so I can take your word for it. That's what I've heard as well. But how do you know that someone is not under the influence while they're on duty? Of course, you got to imagine. I mean, it's going to, by the way, it's going to affect their ability to job.
Yes. I don't want a police officer that's on the job that is drunk. I would really prefer No, I do not. I'm not going to say I really prefer. I do not want a police officer on the job that's high. Period.
Right.
So
there you go. Well, I completely agree, but I think you're right. I think their thing is, well, you don't know. I mean, the point is that if you still test them, they could have smoked it days before it's still in their system. One would think, given the ingenuity of many in our corporate, that they would have come up with a more accurate test for more recent use.
Yeah. Or I don't know, maybe
But
maybe you have to do the stupid human tricks that people do when they get pulled over for drunk driving. Make them do that before they go on duty. Can you put one foot in front of the other?
But according to the White House, these individuals shouldn't have possession of firearms. So which is it?
Yeah.
If you're smoking weed, you shouldn't be handling firearms, which means that if you're a cop who has a firearm, you shouldn't be smoking weed. You shouldn't have possession of a gun. That, according to the Biden White House.
Yes. And now we are getting comments about this. My take says if there's a shooting, they would be tested at the very least by the civil attorneys. Yes, yes. Michael says, I was told, meaning the testing, it stays 7 days in urine and years in hair. I don't have to worry so much about hair. And
just pluck one from the chin there.
There you go. I got some down there. And my stoned person is visibly stoned in many cases. Yes, absolutely. I'm greatly concerned about the ability to handle a firearm, both under the influence of anything. I don't care if it's alcohol, weed, cocaine, whatever. I want you sober if you're on duty. And please, if you are a private citizen and you're armed, please keep yourself sober while you're armed. If you want to partake in whatever you want to partake in, I don't care. Just while you're armed, stay sober if you would.
100% agree. It's funny. For me, it's more a question of when it comes to our public policy consistency, either you're a danger if you use marijuana at all and therefore should not be allowed to own or possess firearms. Either argue that or argue that, look, it's safe, it's okay, it should be legal, and there's nothing wrong with anybody being able to use it. But you don't get ways. You don't get ways.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely. We kind of went sideways on that one a bit. There is a story we had about California, but I want to go to this last story, the one you put in. This is a story off Atlanta Black Star, and this is just posted today. A guy in Florida on June 27th was arrested. I get the only problem I really have with this with this story is the headline. Don't arm yourself with an assault rifle over something so trivial. Florida man arrested, gun seized after pulling an AR-9 rifle on father-daughter landscaping team for blocking driveway. What I want to say on this one is, look, the person that was arrested, after reading through the story, this guy needed it to be arrested, and he didn't. What didn't need to happen was a red flag confiscation of guns, then leave him out in the public to do whatever. And
what was interesting? Yeah, you're right. What was interesting about this whole thing was, and they caught some of it on video, so you had a chance to actually watch some of the video. This particular guy was clearly someone was blocking his driveway, and they got it because it was the landscaper who was blocking his driveway. I don't know what was said or whatnot before they started videotaping, but clearly in the argument, the guy armed himself with an AR-9 and he wasn't pointing it at anybody, but clearly it was he had obtained it with the intention of defending himself, but with the intention of intimidating somebody. And folks, let's just be honest. This is just stupid. The right to keep and bear arms does not give you the right to specifically abuse that right to intimidate or scare or threaten other people. If you, the only time you should be pulling firearms out or taking out of firearms is if you are in need of utilizing it to defend yourself or your family or defend others. This guy got what he deserved. I don't understand. The whole point was if he pulled the firearm out the way that he did, they went out of their way to try and make sure the guy, wasn't able to reoffend by confiscating his firearms. I thought that was appropriate. I think though the guy from the very beginning probably should have been arrested, but they probably needed to kind of look through all of the video and everything to decide whether or not they were going to do that.
Yeah, and the link is too long. I could not fit it in the YouTube comments, but for those of you who are watching on Facebook, that link is on the Facebook side. And when this thing goes out,
the thing that bothers me is I think you made the point. Number one, they tried to make this about quote unquote assault weapons. And that's not what this was about. This is, if he used a handgun, he would have been equally as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, and by the way, this is not about race. This is about any argument, any dispute. That Atlantic, they wanted to make it about a white guy versus a black guy, but really what this is about two people getting into an argument and one person deciding that they needed to flex their 2A muscle in order to win that argument. And my thing is that shows how weak his argument was and how weak he was as an individual in the first place.
Yeah, we use firearms as life-saving tools. The firearm is not there to bolster your side of the argument. The firearm is not there to cause intimidation. If that's the reason you're carrying a firearm, please quit. Please put it away, sell it. If you're using a firearm for intimidation, that's not what they're there for. So, Craig, we're already long on the show, and we're gonna go. We had one more story, but I'll get to it tomorrow. I promise. Amanda Sufcool is going to be on the show tomorrow. Craig, before we go, tell everybody about the rundown. Tell everybody, are you now daily with Morning Coffee with Craig? Or are we still a couple times a week?
We're still doing it 2 days a week. So if you guys go to the Firearms Policy, go to Firearms Policy. You can, and firearmspolicy.org. You can find all of the social media links there for Coffee with Craig. Message them. Tell them you want to see Coffee with Craig Monday through Friday. But we do host a show Monday through Friday called The Rundown. I host it with Mike Piwowarski of Arms Room Radio. We talk about 2A news and conservative views. That's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, weekday. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at Craig DeLuz.
Very cool. Craig, thanks for taking time to talk to us today. I know Tuesday is your busy day, so tell the movie producer you'll be with him in a few minutes. We'll get you out of here.
I will tell him. I'll tell him I'll be with him in a few minutes. And by the way, if you want to know where you can find any one of the movies that I'm in, you probably find it in the discount bin at the dollar store, Dollar General.
Yeah, that's far more movies than I've been in. Anyway, Craig, thanks again. Everybody, please come join us 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow and for the rest of the week. Until then,